In the valley where shadows stretched long across the earth and the dust of countless footsteps lingered in the air, the armies of Israel stood restless and afraid. For 40 days, dawn and dusk echoed with the same taunting challenge, shouted from the throat of a giant whose presence alone seemed to shake the ground. His name was Goliath of Gath, a warrior whose size defied imagination, a towering figure clad in bronze armor that gleamed like fire under the sun. His spear was like a weaver's beam, massive and unyielding, the iron tip alone heavier than most men's swords. Each morning, he would step forward into the valley, his booming voice mocking the Israelites, daring one man, just one, to come and face him. But none came. Fear gripped even the bravest hearts. Among the Israelite army camp, men whispered of his strength, his ferocity, his unbeaten record in war. No one dared step forward, not even the strongest of King Saul's warriors. The giant's challenge was simple: let one man fight him. If Goliath won, the Israelites would be slaves to the Philistines. If Israel's champion triumphed, the Philistines would submit. Yet the risk seemed too great, the odds impossible. For who could overcome such a monster? Far from the battlefield, in a quieter place, a young shepherd named David tended his father's sheep. The youngest of Jesse's sons, he was not tall like his brothers, nor trained as a warrior. His hands bore the marks of labor, his skin touched by the sun, his days spent with flocks and fields rather than swords and shields. Yet David's heart was steady, his spirit vibrant. When lions or bears threatened his sheep, he did not run. He stood. He fought. With a sling and stones, he defended what was entrusted to him. And in those lonely fields, he had learned more than just courage, he had learned to trust in something far greater than himself. He had sung songs under the stars, prayers that rose into the heavens, and in his youth, his faith had become stronger than steel. One day, Jesse called David from the pastures and sent him to the battlefield with bread and grain for his older brothers who served in Saul's army. David, carrying the provisions, went eagerly. He was curious about the war, eager to see the strength of Israel gathered together. But when he arrived and heard the Philistines' booming insults, his heart burned with indignation. Goliath's voice rang out again across the valley, mocking the living God, mocking the people of Israel. Men trembled, soldiers shrank back, but David's eyes did not. Who is this uncircumcised Philistine that he should defy the armies of the living God? He asked aloud, his voice cutting through the silence. His brothers scoffed at him, embarrassed by his boldness. Eliab, the eldest, rebuked him, saying, "Why have you come here? And with whom did you leave those few sheep in the wilderness? I know your pride and the insolence of your heart, you came down to see the battle." But David, undeterred, replied, "What have I done now? Is there not a cause?" Word of his questions reached King Saul, who summoned him. To Saul's surprise, David, the young shepherd boy, declared his readiness to face the Philistine. The king looked at him and shook his head. "You are not able to go against this Philistine to fight with him, for you are a youth, and he a man of war from his youth." But David stood firm, his voice filled with conviction. He told the king of the lions and bears he had fought, how the Lord had delivered him each time. "The Lord who delivered me from the paw of the lion and from the paw of the bear will deliver me from the hand of this Philistine," he said with a quiet strength that surprised even Saul. The king, seeing the boy's unwavering faith, finally relented. He tried to clothe David in his own armor, bronze helmet, coat of mail, a sword at his side, but the weight was too great. David moved awkwardly, shaking his head. "I cannot walk with these, for I have not tested them," he said. Instead, he set aside the heavy armor and chose only his staff, his sling, and 5 smooth stones he picked carefully from the brook. To the soldiers watching, it must have seemed absurd, a boy walking out against a warrior giant, armed only with shepherd's tools. Yet David's confidence was not in weapons, but in the living God. The two figures moved toward one another in the valley. On one side, the giant, huge, armored, bristling with weapons. On the other, a boy, unarmored, small, with nothing but faith in his steps. Goliath looked at him and laughed, his voice dripping with contempt. "Am I a dog, that you come to me with sticks?" He sneered. He cursed David by his gods and roared, "Come to me, and I will give your flesh to the birds of the air and the beasts of the field." But David's reply cut deeper than any sword. "You come to me with a sword, with a spear, and with a javelin," he declared, his voice echoing across the battlefield, "but I come to you in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied." This day the Lord will deliver you into my hand, for the battle is the Lord's, and he will give you into our hands." Then, without hesitation, David ran toward the giant. He reached into his pouch, pulled out a stone, placed it in his sling, and with a practiced motion honed by years of protecting his sheep, he let it fly. The stone cut through the air with deadly speed, guided by a force far greater than David's hand. It struck Goliath squarely in the forehead. The giant's laughter died on his lips as his body froze, then staggered, then collapsed face first into the ground with a thunderous crash that shook the valley. Silence followed. The Philistines gasped in disbelief. The Israelites stood stunned. A boy had done what no man dared attempt. David, without a sword of his own, took Goliath's massive blade and cut off his head, a final act that sent the Philistine army into chaos. They fled in terror, chased by the emboldened men of Israel. What had seemed impossible moments before was now a story that would echo through history. But beyond the clash of armies, beyond the victory and celebration, the real triumph was not in the defeat of Goliath's body, it was in the triumph of faith over fear, humility over pride, and courage over despair. David had shown that victory does not belong to the strong, nor the mighty, nor those with the best weapons or greatest size. Victory belongs to those who believe, to those who stand firm even when the odds are overwhelming. That night, as the campfires burned and men spoke of what they had seen, David sat quietly, his sling still by his side. He was not puffed up with pride, nor did he boast of his skill. In his heart, he knew the truth. The stone had flown by his hand, but the battle had been won by the one he trusted. And in that truth lay the heart of the story, a reminder that no giant, no matter how towering or terrifying, can withstand the strength of faith. Generations would pass, and children would hear the tale of the shepherd boy who faced a giant with nothing but a sling, a stone, and unshakable belief. And in every telling, hearts would stir with hope. For the story was not only about a boy in ancient Israel. It was about every human soul who stands before a giant, be it fear, failure, injustice, or despair, and chooses to believe that giants can fall. Even today, the lesson endures. The giants in our lives may not carry swords or wear armor, but they loom just as large. They may come in the form of challenges we think too great, burdens too heavy, obstacles too high. Yet the story of David whispers to us across time, "You are not too small, you are not too weak, you are not alone." With courage, with faith, with a heart that refuses to bow to fear, even the greatest giants can be brought low. And so the story ends, not in the valley of battle, but in the hearts of all who hear it. For in David's victory lies an eternal truth, that kindness, faith, and courage are stronger than brute strength, and that the smallest among us can rise to do the greatest things. And when we believe, truly believe, giants fall.